On the day of a total solar eclipse, a lawyer meets with a prospective tenant eager to rent her family's apartment. However, when increasingly strange happenings occur during an eclipse, she suspects that her new tenant might have sinister plans for the rental space. In Buenos Aires, Aurelia sees a job listing in the class field ads section of the newspaper and calls the place through a payphone. Soon, she enters a garage and tells the owner that she saw the job they posted and called them earlier that day. The woman asks about her general health and wellness and if she has any disease or uses any illegal substances. Aurelia assures her she's clean, healthy, and intelligent, since she's a pharmacology graduate. Aurelia anxiously follows the owner upstairs, where she sees creepy mannequins by the stairs. As she reaches the top floor, a man suddenly injects her with a syringe from behind, making her fall unconscious. Several days later, a smartly dressed lawyer, Marga Sanchez, stands in front of an apartment building and speaks to her sister Anita on the phone. Marga complains about the realtor being 40 minutes late and wasting her time. Anita tries to calm her sister down, but Marga retorts that she doesn't have time to spare like Anita, since she's too busy with all her obligations. The siblings argue as Anita scoffs at Marga for constantly belittling her. During their conversation, a beggar walks toward the lawyer, asking for change. He keeps following Marga, who tries to walk away from him. She puts her hand in her purse as if searching for something inside the bag. Marga continues to ignore the beggar until he finally gives up. She enters the building and ends the call with her sister. When she reaches the 4th floor landing, Marga sees a man trying to open her apartment's door. She immediately presumes he's the realtor she was supposed to meet. He introduces himself as Jorge Kepler. Marga introduces herself as the property owner and opens the apartment for the man to inspect. Passive-aggressively, Marga expresses her irritation for having to wait 40 minutes, embarrassing Jorge. She shows him around the apartment, asking with suspicion and interest why a big shot would want to rent an old space. To change the subject, Jorge offers to lease the area as soon as possible since the client, Mr. Salva, has taken a liking to the place. Marga agrees upon hearing his offer, so she wants to have the contract signed as soon as possible. Jorge insists the client wants to skip the standard procedures, such as mundane paperwork. However, the lawyer refuses because she knows how imperative legal paperwork is. She says she can't make time for Mr. Salva today as she has important things to do. However, Jorge insists Marga must seal the deal today, and he promises to pay 4 times the property's market value if she can wait for Mr. Salva to arrive. His offer successfully tempts the greedy lawyer into agreeing. They shake hands and Jorge asks if he can borrow Marga's phone to call his boss because he's run out of phone credits, and the woman allows him to use it for 1 hour. She leaves him to his call and enters the kitchen to prepare refreshments. She opens the cupboard and sees a cockroach, causing the lawyer to grimace in disgust. Moments later, Marga tells Jorge she'll step out for a minute to buy supplies from the store across the street. On the way down, the elevator stops moving. Unfortunately, she can't contact anyone since she left her phone with Jorge. After a few minutes, the elevator works again and the lawyer sighs in relief and annoyance. Outside the building, the beggar spots her and follows after her again. He corners her outside the store by calling her names and admonishes her lifestyle. When he grabs her by her shoulder, the woman takes out a taser and electrocutes him. In anger, she screams obscene and impolite remarks at the poor man and even kicks him while he's on the ground. A cop stops her while the people on the street help and defend the older man, telling the police officer that Marga overreacted. The cop reprimands her for her actions, exasperating the lawyer, who can't believe she's being doubted by people she sees as inferior to her. Angered, Marga marches into the store and picks up some things while the cop tells the cashier how rude she was. Then, Marga lines up to pay when an older woman, Encarnacion, starts talking to her about the upcoming eclipse later that day. On her way back to the building, she realizes she's lost her keys to the building entrance and apartment. Fortunately, the same older woman from the store opens the entrance door and accompanies her to the elevator. She reminds the lawyer that any strange occurrences today are due to the upcoming solar eclipse. However, Marga is disinterested in their conversation as she has better things to do and hardly returns to her apartment. When she reaches the 4th floor, Marga is annoyed that Jorge locked the front door. When he finally opens the door, he reasons that he locked the apartment because he feels unsafe in the neighborhood. Inside, she finds another woman, Victoria, Jorge's superior in the real estate agency. Marga asks the man for her cell phone back, while Victoria asks if she needs someone to complete the processing of the contract. Marga brags that she's a lawyer and will handle everything, and as she heads to the kitchen, the 2 realtors make suspicious eye contact. Marga busily prepares drinks for the guests in the kitchen but accidentally breaks the cup when she gets spooked by the cockroach. Jorge comes running in, asking if she's alright. The anxious man seems as though he doesn't want to leave Marga to her own devices. She raises her eyebrow at the odd man, so Jorge leaves the kitchen just as Marga receives a call from her co-worker Ignacio. Ignacio complains about Marga's lateness since they have an important meeting with their client, Ferez. The lawyer tries to defuse the situation by telling him that she'll be there in 45 minutes. She then berates him for his inability to handle the situation without her. She notices Jorge eavesdropping on her conversation, so Marga reprimands the nosy man, who walks back into the living room. After ending her call, Marga hears a sound from the back room and she goes to investigate. The lawyer slowly approaches the storage room when Victoria comes in and asks if she needs help, distracting her from further pursuing the source of the odd noise. Victoria and Marga talk about their work ethics, positions, and co-workers in the living room with great relish. Marga, who enjoys lording her superiority over Victoria, recounts belittling her co-workers for being less knowledgeable than her and needing her assistance most of the time. Suddenly, Jorge sits beside the ladies, and the man breaks down before them, expressing his worry regarding whether the apartment will be good enough for Mr. Salva. Victoria assures him everything will be alright and tells him to stop being so emotional. Suddenly, Marga gets a phone call and excuses herself before walking to the kitchen. Luis, her lover, contacts her for a rendezvous later that night. During their conversation, Marga makes a burning comment about her affair with the married man and apologizes when Luis points out that she's being rude. Unbeknownst to her, Jorge listens to her conversation. After the call, she returns to the living room, opening a conversation with Victoria about the eclipse she had heard from Encarnacion. Jorge interjects that they have an emergency lamp in case they need it, relieved that they did since they weren't expecting an eclipse. Marga grows suspicious of the man, especially since he didn't bring anything else, but Victoria tells her that she was the one who got it because of Jorge's reminder. The female realtor tries to change the topic with a story about their first project. Suddenly, Marga's phone rings, and she excuses herself again to answer a call from her supervisor, Joaquin. He scolds her for missing the meeting with her client, but Marga defends herself by telling him that she had tasked Ignacio to handle it for her. Marga uses her sister as an excuse to prevent her from getting into trouble. She creates a tale that her sister was attacked by two delinquents, so her sympathetic boss lets her off the hook. After finishing her call, she hears a noise from the storage room again and goes to investigate, but finds that the door is locked. She asks the two realtors if they've seen her keys, but they deny seeing them. Marga thinks that a rat might be in the storage room after hearing noises, but she can't open the door without the keys. The lawyer leaves the room and retraces her steps to search for the keys, but the elevator is occupied by two other people. Marga uses the stairs to reach the first floor when the lights suddenly go out, causing her to slip on the broken glass on the floor. She falls and hits her head, resulting in a cut on her forehead. Later, the lawyer tries to enter the store, but she's stopped by the wary cop. The police officer and the store employees defensively deny seeing her keys in the establishment, prompting Marga to return to her apartment empty-handed. The lawyer tries using her phone, but discovers that her phone credits are insufficient, further annoying the woman. She returns to the apartment and sees two more real estate agents, Angela and Alberto. Incensed, Marga demands that Jorge check if he accidentally hid her keys, then berates him for using up all her phone credits. Her attitude doesn't sit well with the man, who acts more demanding, telling Victoria he wants to finish the job. However, Victoria tries to defuse the growing tension between the two, as she assures Marga they'll compensate for the lost keys and phone credits that Jorge used up. Then, Marga hears a loud thud from the storage room and investigates the noise, and the realtors exchange anxious and panicked looks. She peeks through the door's keyhole and sees what looks to be like a sack of potatoes, though she's sure it wasn't there before. Overwhelmed by the situation, Marga heads back to the kitchen and tries to calm herself down. Later, she informs them she'll try to make a call using the neighbor's phone. Before heading out, she asks Angela and Alberto if they were carrying any boxes when they arrived, since she had seen them in the elevator. However, Angela denies her claims. Moments later, she knocks on Encarnacion's door and asks if she can use her phone, which the older woman allows. The lawyer calls Ignacio and accuses him of being a backstabber for stealing her client, Ferez. Ignacio denies doing such a thing, and he does inform Marga that Anita called him earlier, wondering why she couldn't contact her sister. Ignacio notes that Anita sounded fine on the phone, and in a veiled threat to tell Joaquin that Marga lied about her sister's situation, Marga agrees to his indecent proposal just so she can keep her job. The older woman offers her a cup of tea, then she rudely pours it into the aquarium once Encarnacion leaves the room. After finishing her phone call, she leaves the old woman's apartment without saying a word of thanks. On her way back, Marga listens to her voicemail and hears the message from the realtor that she was supposed to meet that morning. The person apologizes profusely about being unable to make it because of an accident. Marga realizes the people in her apartment aren't realtors and she tries to run away. Unfortunately, Jorge sees her and deduces that their cover's blown. She reaches the ground floor but can't open the door because she doesn't have her key. In a panic, Marga goes back to Encarnacion's apartment to hide. Inside, Marga begs the woman to call the authorities when Encarnacion notices her lifeless fish in the aquarium. She spots the tea bag in the fish tank, so Marga lies and says she accidentally dropped it and was too embarrassed to say anything. Suddenly, Jorge knocks on the door and pretends that he's Marga's husband. Despite Marga's insistence that the man's lying, Jorge convinces the older woman when he describes the ring Marga wears on her finger. Eventually, Encarnacion opens the door and Jorge grabs Marga, threatens to hurt Encarnacion if Marga doesn't cooperate, and drags her to the elevator. The woman retaliates by using her taser on him. After the elevator stops, she gets out and hides in a corner just as Alberto arrives to see Jorge on the floor. The lawyer sneaks behind him, but he spots her and chases her up the stairs. Unfortunately, Jorge, who rode the elevator to the top floor, waits for her. He punches her and the lawyer falls to the ground. He torments the woman with her taser in revenge. The four perpetrators bring Marga back to the apartment and drop her on the floor. Confused, Marga looks up at the ceiling and sees it covered in paintings of angels. They tie her up on a chair in the kitchen. She tries to fight back, but Jorge continues zapping her with the taser and laughs in her face. The group then starts rearranging the whole apartment and removing the wallpaper, revealing ritualistic paintings on the wall. The women tell Marga that Mr. Salva figured out that sunspots were the key to deciphering the cycles, especially the Great Cycle, which started on September 1, 1859. During the total solar eclipse, they'll go on a journey with Mr. Salva as their guide. Marga pleads with the women to make them see that they've been brainwashed, but the determined pair is committed to the cause. Angela starts cutting Marga's clothes before slathering her body and hair with oil. Later, they leave her in the kitchen and join the men in admiring the crude paintings on the wall. Meanwhile, Marga tries to escape with her hands and feet tied up and ends up falling into the storage room. The sack next to Marga suddenly moves and a bound and clothless Aurelia pops out. Furious, Jorge knocks the lawyer out with a punch. Minutes later, Marga awakens to Encarnacion's voice from the front door. The older woman came by to return Marga's phone, which she had left in her apartment. Suddenly, Marga stumbles toward the door, where the neighbor sees her begging for help. Stunned, Encarnacion turns to leave but encounters the imposing Mr. Salva and Emilio. They pull Encarnacion into the apartment, and the leader tells them to put the older woman in another room and let Marga witness the ritual. Salva congratulates everyone for finding the perfect place for the ritual as they lay Aurelia in the middle of the circle, and they each take their rightful place. As the eclipse starts, the sky darkens and the ritual begins. Emilio violently beheads Aurelia and Salva pulls out a gun, which he passes to Angela, who shoots herself in the head. One by one, the entire group passes around the firearm and shoots themselves to complete the rite. Amidst the carnage, Marga successfully undoes her rope when Salva points the gun at her. Instead of taking her out, he points it at himself and pulls the trigger. As the only person left alive, Marga finds her way out of the building and screams for help. Later, the police arrive at the scene and ask her to recount the events from her perspective. However, contrary to her story, Detective Elvasio says they only found the bodies of Aurelia and Encarnacion and no one else, leading them to believe that she's the perpetrator. Her actions toward the beggar earlier paint her as a violent woman, which the people on the street attest to. Marga is taken into custody for a crime she didn't commit, and as the police car drives her away, the beggar gleefully waves at her with a knowing look in his eyes.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.